Okay, and we can begin our meeting. We'll call to order the roll call.
Meeting begins at 8:24. Dr. Griggs,
Present.
Dr. Hutchins, present. Dr. Cavender,
Present.
Dr. Olson,
Present.
Dr. Coker, I know you're muted.
Present.
Okay, Dr. Zahner
Here.
and Dr. Greer,
Present.
Dr. Poe. I believe she said she would be late, and Dr. Weems.
Okay, and she sent the message,
She's
she's in a
running late?
meeting now that, yeah, she's running late.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, Dr. Hutchins. All right, welcome everyone. I'm gonna make this quick. I'm actually have a little bit of a headache myself and it's a little nausea. I don't even know why that is, but we'll just get started with the special meeting, and we'll just start. And we kind of started a little bit with Tony talking about the winter conference. I just wanted to get some quick updates on that. And Dr. Zahner has kind of gave us updates on those speakers already. And Randy, I know you did send the email about the dinners and that the fees had went up. I do remember that email. So we will adjust our prices for the holiday dinner accordingly because those prices went up as well.
Is that right after the winter conference?
After the continuing education, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So is there anything more I need to do with Julia in the hotel, making sure that's all confirmed, but you still need to pick the menu?
I think we still need to pick the menu, look over it. I saw the email, but I didn't get into details as far as the food yet.
Yeah. Okay. So I just
so
want to let her know that we're going to do it, but we haven't picked the food yet. So.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So that's going to be an action item that we'll follow up on for the food. And we're pretty much confirmed our continuing education for that day of training. Okay, great. And Tony went over the topics. I'm not sure if you did that while the recording was on.
I didn't. So,
If you don't mind.
James, it's Michael Widener, Weidner, Michael
Okay.
Widener, Dr. Michael Widener. He's a DN in New Mexico. And then he's going to be talking about color therapy, how to diagnose with colors, and also some manipulation therapy. And then Dr. Stretch is going to do the diagnosis of the knee in the afternoon for 2 hours. So it's 4 hours with Mike and 2 hours with Dr. Stretch.
Okay.
And I'm trying to talk Dr. Stretch into doing maybe next fall or something, when this COVID crap is over, doing like a 10-week master anatomy class, master like a diagnosis class for us. And, you could join it and it's going to cost probably a pretty penny, but I think it's going to be worth it. He'll, teach us like a couple hours a week on a Sunday or something, and go joint by joint. That's my plan, is to have that. And it'll help the college too, because we're going to have it at the college. So,
I had been talking with him about it. It's just, with everything else, it just hadn't come back up.
Sure.
That is something that we talked about, making it a stretch of seminars, especially with the scope of practice changes and the differential diagnosis for connective tissue disorder. So even though it doesn't read that way in the Practice Act, that's where we're headed. And so it doesn't hurt to begin that type of training and seminars now. It doesn't hurt to do
and
that.
also, Dr. Shante, we can point to that, if they ask us and say, look, we have these classes, we're educating our people. And then we also talked about 10 weeks of hypnosis, maybe. I want to go back to those 10-week courses that people could come to. And it'll bring money to the college. That's my number one thing, is bring money to college. Number two, obviously, is to educate our people,
Absolutely. Okay, great. All right.
Better your diagnosis, the better you get paid, right?
Okay, let's see, we're next agenda item. What I wanted to mention about the treasurer and membership relations for this meeting, not necessarily approving any reports. And as you can see here, I don't have the approval of the past minutes for this special meeting, but thank you, Jim, for getting those out. I have it for the next actual quarterly meeting. So that's going to be the agenda item for both of those on that, but at least we have them ahead of time where we can review them and make any type of updates as necessary for them. Because I didn't want to bombard them with too much information for this special meeting, but I did want to touch on those few things because we have the winter conference coming up in a few weeks. So the only thing that I was going to say about with the treasurer and membership relations is that I'm getting ready to get a button and forms, things are going to get ready to be put on the site. Those are some of the things that's been happening in the backdrop, creating the forms where our members will be able to apply directly from the napropath.org website. So I want all of us to kind of put in our memory bank, napropath.org as the official ANA website, that we're just pushing that website and that the focus and the emphasis is on the practitioner. And that's why it's napropath.org. We still have naropathy.org. We still have to get it rerouted over to that main page. But I did want to mention to the two of you that we'll have it where when the form submissions come in, it's going to hit your emails. So for Don and Mary, it's going to hit your emails, your napropath.org emails directly when people begin to fill out those membership applications or their renewals from the website. And I think that will help in any type of organization or, the things that you guys are doing, because you'll have a copy, something that you can copy paste, something you can print out, and it'll have all the information that we collect from the printed form, but it'll just be that they completed it digitally and that they signed digitally. So that's where we're moving.
Dr. Griggs, was that napropath or napropaths? I'm sorry.
Oh, no
I heard
S.
both.
No S on the end. Yes. Napropath.org. And so I just wanted to give you two the heads up that if you start to see form submissions, that they'll be forwarding to your emails. And of course, I know you'll be able to see that, Don, when you look at the PayPal, it'll be clear, it'll be evident that that's a membership. But just in case for Mary, so that she'll know that when you start seeing those emails, they're going to be sent to you guys simultaneously. And then that way you're receiving it real time at the same time. So those are just the updates for the two of you. And have you all gotten a chance to speak with anybody else about those sunset pledges from 2021 and even this year? Any type of progress or leeway on that?
I've talked to a couple of people, but it's just, I think we ought to make a really big push at the conference, just remind everybody. And also when we send out our advertisement for the December conference, maybe we could put a big reminder on the top, like a banner. Folks,
Right.
please don't forget our commitment to our lobbyists. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we want to call it, as opposed to lobbyists, so it's not the focus.
Right. Whatever you want to put it.
But the NPA pledge, that's the Naturopathic Practice Act. That's what they're sending the pledge for. So whatever we need to allocate funds for to supporting that, that's what it's for. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good. Okay, let's see here, under members updates, even I haven't looked in it's not a whole lot of activity when I've gone to look in, and Don, you've done a great job in keeping it organized in the Wave apps under the customers, so we're able to find them. I do want to be able to send them some little trinkets. Maybe a few years ago, Mary and I had it where we sent the members pins and things like that, that had the association's name and emblem on them. And I do want to create a store where we start to sell promotional products, they're little mugs that have the American Association, Naturopathic Association on them, t-shirts, and any ideas that you guys have.
Mouse pads.
Okay.
Mouse pads, people use those, and they're on the desk, people can see them.
Yeah, so I just, just some ideas for some promotional products that we could sell on a site that also helps with the fundraising. So of course, getting our membership dues and then our conventions and the events that we're having as ways of getting money, but also those promotional items, because it doesn't have to be just naturopaths that's getting it. It could be the students, it could be the affiliate members, anyone that is affiliated with us. So Mary, did you or Don have anything to add to those updates?
Nope.
Okay. All right. And then moving on to what the meeting is, the special meeting is about, and that's the ANA bylaw updates. I have a quick question. I'm going to switch my share. Has anyone ever seen any other versions of the bylaws that may have the addendums?
No.
Anyone? Okay, well, of the senior members, like maybe
That's what I
Randy
know.
or Jim or, okay. All right, so I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom of this document. And this is pretty much the one that I had received from Dan years ago. So we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And this is in the Google Drive where I shared it with everyone, in case anybody was able to see what the comments that I had. There's, you know, as you can see here, we have a few different addendums and I've never actually seen them. So I don't know. And I remember in my conversations with Dr. Paulson at the college when she was there at that time, she was someone that was working with Dr. Varanowski on these bylaws years ago when they did it. So it could have been that this was a work in progress and it just hadn't finished, or, you know, I'm not really sure with those. So that was my question about the addendums. Has anyone ever seen them? Because when we refer to them, I'm going to go back to Article 4, I believe that's, I'm sorry, 9, where I highlighted the amendments, the procedures that what we have in the current bylaws and amending them. So if there is anything that we wanted to update or add, that's what we're going to do. We have to notify the membership of any of the suggestions that we're going to make. And I'm going to get to my suggestions in just a second. We have to notify the entire membership. And the best place to do that will be on the 4th and 5th, those 2 days, because we'll still have the virtual meeting on the 5th for those who don't come out on the 4th, but at least we'll have some paperwork, some pamphlets, something for the membership that actually comes to the winter conference as well, so that they know that they're a part of this process with any of the amendments and, you know, things that we're going to be adding to the bylaws or changing. So I wanted to just mention that our amendments that we have to at least give them 7 days, but we're going to give them plenty of notice before the winter conference that this is something that we'll be asking for their input on. And we're not going through all of it. I'm going to go back to another highlighted part here. Here we go, the nominations committee. And I thought I put a comment in there, but maybe not. Okay, so we have in here as it reads that the chair of the nominating committee for the ANA is the previous president, whoever the sitting president was, and that's the chair. And then that person gets to determine who else is on there and who's going to be on the board. What my suggestion would be is that as far as a previous president, maybe that person who's the chair can be someone that's impartial, someone else, that can be appointed or elected into the position of the chair for that committee. The only thing that I see with that is, say, for instance, and this is just a hypothetical that I'm just throwing out here. Say we have a president that's sitting on the ANA, because we got to think about years down the line when it's no longer us here. And how do we protect the integrity of the organization so they can continue to grow? What if a president is removed or a president loses an election? Is it feasible for that person to be chair of a committee that's going to bring in future board members? That's my question. Does that, see, I'm not opposed to presidents sitting on that committee, but just leading it. I would think that with a current administration, and we see this all the time, even in politics, every time there's a new president, they bring in their whole administration of people with them to help them fulfill whatever it is that they were trying to do, on their campaign promises, right? Usually they bring those people with them. It's not usually a prior administration having, this headache, I'm not even finding my words, having so much power and influence on who's sitting on the board and who's working with you on a board as you're getting things done. So if you guys can kind of see what I mean by that.
Can we do something like 3 years or something, Shante? That person cannot be, have any power for 3 years after they've been either relieved or resigned or lost an election? Is that possible? To put like a yearly number on it?
I mean, anything is possible. That's the point of bringing these conversations up now so that we can at least present the membership with some options and, and then get their input from it. And then it's all voted on in the end. But that was what it was. And it comes after, and I took a screenshot. Of the email. Hold on. This came from, all righty here. Just a second to find, it's right here. Okay, new share. I took a screenshot. All right, so this came to us, or, some time ago, because you can see when it's dated. And the concern that was brought about was that the chair would be Dr. Chikowitz. He's the last sitting president for it. And then he said that the ANA bylaws stated that if he was unable or unwilling to fulfill that position, that it can go to the next president. And then I went to look at that inside of the bylaws. And actually what it says is that person could actually be elected. So if the prior president decides, I do not want to do that, or I'm not able to for whatever reason or other, that chair would then could be elected. So it doesn't automatically just go backwards to all of the prior presidents. It's just saying that person could be elected if they didn't want to.
The irony, that the person that would be nominated would need to be nominated by the election committee, which wouldn't exist without a chair. So it's kind of like a big circle.
Yeah, so exactly. And so that's what brings us back, because we want the organization to grow. We want more people. The vision that I have for the ANA is that it's more inclusive of other states, others that identify as naturopaths, and some of the language really isolates it, just limits the positions of leadership to Illinois licensed naturopaths. And with the vision for licenses to be throughout the United States, we just want to at least set the tone that that's where we're moving. And that's the whole point of this. We want to be able to grow the organization. And it could be some really useful people that come into the organization to help us fundraise, help us connect, help us to continue to fulfill the mission. We're trying to expand neuropathy. And so it just makes it a little limiting, where we don't have a lot of wiggle room to do things with the way that things as they're stated in the current bylaws, which is why we would make the suggestions for the amendments that we can add things to them. Has anyone looked at them or have any thoughts or suggestions? I'm going to scroll up really quick to make sure I don't have anything else highlighted anywhere, because really that's what we were, because everything else is pretty standard and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when there's not a lot of, it could be interpreted differently. So that's why we want to make sure that the document is clear so that it's interpreted correctly. I don't want to have a misinterpretation of it and then I'm doing something wrong.
I just wanted to throw one idea out there. I know other organizations that have a president-elect, even up to a year prior to their reign, that kind of allows them to prepare what they want to do during the time that they're, president.
Okay.
And they're still on the board as the president-elect. So they're, almost like, I mean, you could say that would be the role of a vice president, that they would be coming up instead of, a president-elect, or you could do both. But that way the transition of power isn't like so quick and immediate. And there's, kind of a gap, kind of like, the president of the United States, there's a gap before he actually gets power. And it might just be a better transition from one president to the next. And if that were the case, the sitting president, or instead of saying the last president, what if we said anyone on the board, anyone currently on the board who could be the chair of the nominating committee, to make it a little bit more fillable with other people. And then if no one is able to fill that role, then we can put it out to the membership. What do you think about that?
I was going to suggest just putting it out there to the membership. Maybe it's not anyone that's serving in a role on a board, because I don't know if anyone's looked at our descriptions lately. We kind of have our plates full here, and the things that we would have to do. So just so that we're not overstretched, we could offer, that up as a position or a role for someone that's in the membership to be the chair on a nominating committee, where those inquiries can go through them and then they notify us of this. Because that's the way that it kind of seemed like, that it was done before. And there were people who would express, and, I remember experiencing this. I can't really remember which year, but I remember someone sending something to me at the college. So it has been within the last 3 years, then we should say, where they sent their application for this to me because no one contacted, no one responded, no one, and so that's what I'm trying to prevent, so that we don't have people that are just discouraged from joining because maybe life stepped in and no one was able to respond to them, but if we had someone that was just dedicated to that, then those things wouldn't slip through the cracks,
I'm just curious, kind of circling back to what Dawn was talking about. What if we had the initial choice to be possibly people who had served on the board at any time, just because of their familiarity with board operations, if you will? And then if nobody was willing to or able to do that, then we just had just a general write-in candidate vote from the profession as a whole. That might be complicated because we'd have to keep track of everybody that would be potentially there.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Well, again, I was thinking that if it's a currently serving administration, I would think that they would bring their people in and say, hey, these are great candidates for the, and then present those, to the board, and then have the nominating committee, for people that are just seeking to be on the board. And maybe they don't know any of us and they're not comfortable yet with reaching out to any of us, so, that's really why, just to have that person there to say, hey, we wouldn't even know that these people are interested, especially if they're not going to be forthcoming. But I guess, if you're going to be a leader, then you're going to have to be assertive. So, can't really pull teeth when it comes to that. So, so those are just my thoughts with that, just to repeat that, I would think, and it also does say in there that the current president could actually form a committee to do that too. But, it was just the thing about that prior president, being the chair. What if you have conflicting views with the prior president and then the new, you're going to have, it's going to be a bit of a clash. And that's the conflict that I'm trying to avoid here, moving forward in the future, so that operations could still run smoothly. We can get a lot more done when we're not too busy over here fighting each other over the little stuff, for lack of a better way of saying it, so that's what I'm trying to prevent here. Get something going where it doesn't slow down our momentum. We want to continue to make progress here. So That's why I
Oh,
wanted to address it.
Where are you proposing that the nominee would come from then? I mean, what would that process look like?
I'm thinking that the current, whoever was newly elected that came in can actually nominate a person to be the chair. I think the entire committee could be any people who've previously served. It's the chair position that is my moment to pause. Like, oh, wait a minute, the chair, the person that's that person. So that's the reason why it kind of triggered, like, wait a minute, but I would say that anyone that wanted to serve on these committees, you're giving up your time. So we want to be welcoming and inclusive to everybody. It was just that my concern about, and even just using my own experience as an example, it was a difficult transition of power when I got into place. Things weren't necessarily just given as easily. There was a little bit of tension there. And I'm not necessarily saying that it was the last president. I didn't have a problem with him at all, but there were other members, and the former president before that, where it was it was difficult. It was difficult to get the running start that we could have had. And so if we can have something in place that prevents that, so that, again, the organization can keep its momentum. This is about the ANA being able to keep moving and keep running efficiently. So that, I don't think I put any more comments for that, other than that, wanting to know where those addendums are. And then the last thing that I was going to say too, with respects to this, when it comes to the Council on Colleges, we're going to have that outline of how that gets formed, and we'll have that for the quarterly board meeting, which will be in December. So we'll definitely have that so that we can start moving forward on how that becomes real. Okay. Because now that we've found a lot of different colleges and places now, we definitely want to develop those relationships with them. I'm going to move on back to share. The next part, was there anything else I wanted to add on the nominating committee? Because we could just take what we have, and then move on to elections. Do we have elections coming up? Because it's 2022, so every winter conference, we do have elections. We have the alternating ones, because everyone has a 2-year term. They're staggered, and there's always elections running every year, it feels. It doesn't feel like elections are every 2 years. It feels like every year we're having elections. So
I'm
think
so messed up from COVID. Is that usually at the winter conference that we do that?
you're right. The COVID did that. Okay,
Yeah, because I mean, it seems like everything recently has been in June.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you. Okay, because we did it last time. Sorry.
We still don't have a vice president, correct? So wouldn't we need to at least try to elect a vice president?
Yes, to answer that question, yes, we do want to get that position filled. But just to go back to my question about the elections are annually every June. And the reason why I'm thinking it's December was because of the year of COVID, when everything was shut down, and we did it that December. Okay, so we'll just put that on okay. So it's not it's not this December. Okay. All right. I will note to self. The question came up only because we had done it in the winter, but I couldn't remember why. Thank you, Jim. It was because of COVID. Okay. Tomorrow starts our self-proclaimed American Nephropathy Month, the month of November. So we'll have some automations going down. And we can share it. If you guys see it, please feel free to share those things from the ANA's pages, just acknowledging American Nephropathy Month, and the third week being the National Nephropathy Week. So if you guys have little memes or little things that you're doing maybe in your office that you share just in recognition and the hashtags, just feel free to do it. If I see it, I'll share it so that we can just start to get the buzz out about it this year. And November 16th being Napropath Day, National Napropath Day, or
Ligotype Day.
yes. Mhm. All right. Interesting. That's when our malpractice, I mean, not malpractice, our DNO is due every November 16th. Oh, look at there, the symbolism. That's been paid, by the way. They sent an email. So we have an online account. I have that in next month's, the quarter agenda. So it's a topic in the quarter agenda. I just thought about it because I saw the date here for that, Okay. Well, I certainly thank you guys for jumping on just to, so that we can have the conversations. And then that way we can just work in the backdrop and we can communicate through email. But just in case we needed to talk about it, because I know a lot of things can be mistranslated in text and emails. So I did want to bring this up so that we can say, hey, because we've tabled it for like 3 meetings. So now we can say we've checked it off and that we've had preliminary conversations about it.
Dante, well, would you like me to email Dan Baranowski if they have amendments?
Oh, about the addendums?
Addendums, I meant, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I'll do. Okay.
Thank you. But other than that, that if anyone else has any other comments or things that they want to maybe add to the meeting before we adjourn.
I have a couple of questions. One, did we need to add the Nephropathy Day to our bylaws? I thought that was one thing
Do we need
we
to
had
add
mentioned
what?
earlier.
Are we adding
The Nephropathy Day to our bylaws? I thought you mentioned something about we had to have a vote or added somehow to that early on. So I don't know if we do or not, but it might be.
That's a good question, Don, because I was wondering if that was something that was necessary to put in the bylaws. Because when you think of bylaws, it's just it's just our governing document. I don't know that other places put the American, put their months in the bylaws necessarily. Unless we're just saying that we've recognized them, but we've done that in meeting minutes too.
Right.
So that's another.
We did vote
Sure.
on it in a meeting, I believe, a few meetings ago. So it is documented that it was approved, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, we want to, just have the other things that we want to, and again, it's not a whole lot that I found wrong. It's just, we don't want misinterpretations. We want to make things as clear as we can. So that was pretty much it. Since it came up, and then now it actually forced me to look at the document a little more. And now we need to find those addendums. But at least I do know for the addendum on the Council on Colleges, that is something that that myself and Dr. Mesher is working on. So we're working on getting that blueprint together so that there is something to go by. Because unlike what's in the bylaws where it says that that's that's a volunteer group or a volunteer, contrary to that, what we're finding is most of those type of councils where they become accrediting bodies, the people are paid. So that's one of the things that I found inside of our document that is conflicting to what's actually out on the outside, in the real world, I should say. So that's the only thing that's different. And it is not us. So it's not the ANA board, so even though we may nominate, we may recommend, we may, however that comes to play, but we don't control them. If we don't, once they are formed and they're their own entity doing that within, just within the organization. So that's what I'm finding from the research from Dr. Mesha when it comes to places like the American Medical Association, the American Osteopathics, like their accrediting agency. And even with the pharmacists, there's a completely different group that accredits pharmacy schools. That is not the American Pharmacist Association. It's not them. So that's the only thing that's different within our bylaws that I'm finding that's different out in the real world. And so that's the only thing. And we'll get to that when it comes to Council on Colleges, because we also need to know what the budget and what the number would be. And we kind of know how much it's going to cost to get something like that formed, but it's at least good to know what that cost is going to be able to do that, so that we could start moving forward into recognizing colleges and universities that have neuropathy programs. So that's the only thing with that particular addendum.
I wanted to make a comment on the National Ligotites Day.
Okay.
November 16th. Since right now the organization is small, but since we will be incorporating more states into the American Naturopathic Association, it might be good to put that November 16th date in there so everyone can kind of be aware of it and mention it. It can become a part of the other states that will then be incorporated with the ANA. So they would all know there's some kind of a foundation or a date of recognition.
Okay.
So we all kind of recognize it on the same day. And it doesn't have to be a strict rule, but just a mention that they would all be aware of and be a part of.
Okay. All right.
Just for, yeah, just for recognition and acknowledging
Okay.
the old term.
Good idea. I know you were kind of looking for memes or advertisements or, any kind of promotion that people might be interested. Are we sending out a notice to the members at large of the fact that there's that this is all going on in November? Is there, I know we have a DN coming out about the convention, but is there any notification going out?
Okay. So that's something we'll have to do. Good point on the goodness, we when we had someone, see, that's why we need more members, more people in these committees. Yes, we do need to get something out that is going to say that, because that is tomorrow, because that is November 1st. I know that I can quickly get posts that will go across all of our social media. If I can, I'll probably send something that's just a simple picture. It won't be a lot of words, but it'll be just something, to just send out really quick that I could probably do and have that scheduled. I wish I had thought of that earlier, because I had that scheduled to go out in the morning, just for the recognition, since this is the day one. And so I will make that a priority tomorrow to get a picture, something that out that just says we're recognizing this this month, since it'll be November 1st. I was looking in the bylaws to see where will we, squeeze something like that. Maybe that's an addendum.
I just printed mine out today and started looking at it, and I have to say it's a lot to absorb. I've never been involved with making rules and regulations, so it's all new to me. Just looking it over and soaking it in, letting it soak in.
Okay.
Don't know if I would have any changes. So, but certainly if there's something we need to vote on as a group to make some alterations to it, I'm all for that, for improvements.
And it's not a whole lot. It's just some things that are missing. But I guess it's the great thing about adding or making these amendments is that once we start to experience things, then we'll know, oh, wow. And once we refer to the document and it's not there, then we can, okay, we can add it. So we haven't had a whole lot to do. So these things didn't come up. And it wasn't until I got that email that I even stopped to think and go back and look and see, because a lot of those positions hadn't been filled. I did want to go back to Don with the because that's the point of the nominations. That's the point of it, getting those positions filled, because those executive seats, people have to have already served on the board. So we're trying to get people just to get in the first seats on the board so that we can, transition them into executive positions if they so choose to. That's the one position we can't just put a placeholder in. Unlike maybe director 1 or director 2, or we'll be able to do that where we're able to just say, hey, we can nominate you for this. But when it comes to the executive positions, either we're moving someone up who's already been serving on the board, or that's exactly what we're doing because they have to have the 2 years or sometime a year, something.
Just for the record, I cannot think of a scenario, and that's my memory not being all means conclusive, but I cannot think of a scenario where a past president has served as the chair of the nominating committee. I was just going back in my head, and I mean, this is what, like my 4th board term, and I can't remember it ever happening.
Okay.
It seemed forever. It was just like Jackie DeBerard. I mean, it seemed like for the first at least 2 terms I was on the board, they just kept referring back to Aaron Paulson, and but she was never a past president of the A&A that I know of.
Jackie was. She was a very short time.
Aaron Paulson was the president?
No,
not
Jackie
Paulson.
DeBerard.
The other lady.
DeBerard, was she
yes,
president or vice president?
President.
DeBerard.
She
She
was.
was president?
She was.
Yeah, she was
president. Yeah.
Treasurer.
Very short time.
She was the treasurer, and someone walked off, and then
Oh,
of
the
course,
one, the Jim Kearns board that
Yeah.
all dissolved except for 2 people. Yeah,
yeah,
I remember
Yeah.
that.
yeah. So yeah, she told me that story. But yeah, it came up. So it came up from someone in the membership. So we've done our due diligence. We have addressed it. And so now we'll have some meeting minutes, and then we can follow up with our, recommendations to present to the membership. Okay. Well, that was pretty much it. Now that we've had the conversation, and then we've gotten a few updates on some of the upcoming things we have going too. So that was really good. Thank you guys for
Just about ready to close up.
jumping
What-
on for this.
One more thing. Can I just ask one more quick thing? I sent you guys a copy of the email I was planning to send to Teresa Ma about lobbying for more insurance coverage. Did anybody look at that or have any
What was it
opinions
say?
about?
Was that the
Basically, it's a
list
list
of,
of insurance companies that cover nephropathy and a list that we'd love to see covered. So, and I had an idea about, because the Ligatite Day, November 16th, is very close to a lot of people's open enrollments, we could use it as an opportunity to ask people to ask if they have naturopathic coverage when they're looking at different insurance plans, and ask their insurance brokers if they have naturopathic coverage for these different plans. It's a way to remind them that this is a service that they could have access to if we got more coverage from the insurance companies, but also from the businesses, because they're really the gatekeepers most of the time. So anyway, but I also don't know if you're comfortable with me sending this, Teresa, that's great. I could also make a shorter one that could maybe just invite people to ask about their naturopathic coverage with their insurance plan, to see what benefits they might currently have and to lobby to get more. So it happens to coincide with that. So it might help us in that regard. So any opinions about that? Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? Do you remember the
Yes.
letter that I sent? Okay.
I remember the letter. I was actually just thinking about it today, but you were looking specifically for IDs and group numbers, correct? For
Not IDs, just group numbers.
or not IDs, I mean
And
group
business.
numbers for plan names and group numbers, or if you whatever you
Right.
have to. Yeah, because I mean I think Blue Cross administers about 3,000 plans in Illinois. We only
There's a
see a
lot of them,
handful of them
yes.
when we look on their website, but they underwrite for so many. It's weird because I am not a network provider, and I have a patient who I get in-network coverage. Her husband works for the Village of Buffalo Grove, and so it's probably a very small plan, but there's all those little bitty plans out there that if people could find it and target it, it would be good. But I'm not. In other words, it's hard to turn that over to somebody to help negotiate on our behalf. It's just there are so many plans. It's kind of weird. Like for exactly
Well,
why
I
she
think,
covers me as though I was in network and I'm not. I don't know.
yes,
I have lots of other plans where it goes to an out-of-network deductible.
sure.
But
I mean,
Yeah.
the other option would be to list what current plans we know are covered even on our website. So people, could see the ones that we know are covered and try to increase that list over the years. Like we are here to promote and preserve empathy. So if we can get more plans to cover us, and the more people that see how many are out there, they might be more apt to allow it in their plan, and add it to their plan. I guess that's what we're asking for, is to add naturopathic coverage
Right.
to their current plans so that more people have access to it. So for some, it's
One would
not even
find
an
that-
ad,
that-
it's just not excluding. So
Well, you think maybe
Well-
someone from Blue Cross Blue Shield would be a better person to pitch that to versus, I know that our
well,
representative.
I would love to send a letter to Blue Cross and Aetna and United Healthcare, all of them, as
we
well
should-
as a lot of these.
Because I think they would be the
unions.
best source to actually, they'll have the list of all of those groups as opposed to us trying to figure it out. Why not just go directly to the source and see what?
I think I
plan-
have already, but they wouldn't give it to us. But we can try again. It might come better from you. So
Okay. What did you ask?
I think I specifically asked Blue Cross, could I get a list of your current plans that have naturopathic coverage? That's what I was asking for.
Ooh, now if you're talking about 3,000, I can see why that one went unanswered. If they're looking for they're looking for a specific needle and a stack of needles, and so that person probably just looked at it like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that.
One thing that a place we went down this road, and I know this isn't the meeting for it, but in the past, when eventually they got down to it, where some people on the board had personal acquaintance with someone who was relatively high up, say in a union, one of the
Sure.
unions, and they put them through to their person who does the negotiating for their plan. And essentially at that time, it was a matter of adding $4 a month to their premium to get
Sure.
like coverage for 15 visits. But they had to agree that they wanted to put it in the plan. And boy, I've been back and forth over the last 20 years with the Carpenters Union, where for 2 years they cover services, and then for 3 years they don't, and then all of a sudden they do for a year or two, and then they don't. It all depends on who took that job and made that negotiation, or what other things got put in front of it. So if anybody gets patients like that in the office, or, you know, they, a lot of times those people can direct you to the right people, at least for that particular group's plan.
Okay.
Do you know who was making some progress with that before they moved Dr. LaVista, before she got together with Pat and moved out to New Mexico? She was working on that locally, trying to get some union plans
Oh.
in.
Okay.
I might have to reach out to her then, because
Yeah, it was a long time ago, so I don't have the details for clear. That was 20 years ago, but
sure.
but she might have at least give you some idea where she was going with that. Or some of these groups, like even colleges, you know, a lot of them have their own
Sure.
plans, or for-profit colleges. Career Ed, I know, was one that we were dealing with back then, that had their own plan, and they, you know, their human resource person could say, oh, you got to talk to Mary over in benefits, you know, and then when she's negotiating the contract, if they have a number of people or a couple of higher up people that are interested in getting NEPRPAS covered, you know, they can practically wave a magic wand next time the contracts come around and get us on the books, on the plan. Won't
Okay.
help me, but it'll help you guys.
Okay. Well, we can definitely explore. Hi, Dr. Sue. Good to see you.
Good to be seen. How's everyone?
We're good.
Yeah,
Good,
we're
Sue.
actually
Thanks
Pretty good.
for coming.
yeah, we're actually wrapping things up, but we did record the meeting so that everyone will be able to see what we covered for today. So yeah, Don, Dr. LaVista, you could reach out to her, see where she was going with that, because I know it was Iris Martinez that got us in with Blue Cross Blue Shield those years ago. So it, you know, sometimes it can be a person that knows, and you know, and definitely if you can ask Rep Ma if she knows someone or if she does, you know, it doesn't hurt, because you never know who knows whom. So you never know. So it certainly doesn't hurt to see, you know, if there's some way in, but definitely going to the companies directly is.
I would imagine that the state reps know a lot of the union reps or bosses or whatever.
That's true.
Just
I'm gonna have to
Getting them
knock
to
out.
part with the right information.
That's a good point. It looks like I'm gonna
yeah.
have to pull out my Rolodex of state reps and ask the question and just say, hey, who knows this? You know, so that we can make some progress there. Okay. All right. All right. Well, again, I thank you guys for joining on. We can have a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm sure everyone all in favor.
In favor.
All right. Good evening.
Night.
Everyone.
See
Good
y'all
night.
soon. Bye.
All right.